In this video, we're going to talk about the background for testing strategy and definition of done. What I'm going to do in this video is give you some background on why it's important and how is it conducted. And then we'll go into a checklist that you can go through your teams, both definition of done and testing strategy. I'll give you some tips and tricks that I've thought that helped me throughout my journey. This could be for seasoned veterans, maybe to brush up, or even people that are new to this topic. At the end, you do not want to miss, because at the very end, I'm going to give you a cheat sheet that you can use within your teams to make them successful.
Ever wondered how Agile testing can contribute to team success? Well, let's dive right into it. Agile testing is a unique approach to software testing that is entrenched in the principles of Agile development. Picture it as a journey where you test features as they are being developed, using an iterative process that incrementally builds the software. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Agile testing is like a best friend to DevOps and continuous testing. Why, you ask? Because it allows for the prevention and early detection of issues and bugs. Yes, you heard it right. The sooner we spot the bugs, the quicker we can squash them, or prevent bugs altogether. But here's the catch. Agile testing isn't just about finding bugs. It's like the glue that holds the team together, promoting collaboration and communication. So Agile testing isn't just about finding bugs. It's about building a better, more efficient, and more collaborative team. Now that we understand what Agile testing is, let's dive into its types. We begin with test-driven development, TDD, an approach where developers write tests before coding. Then comes acceptance test-driven development, ATDD, involving the whole team prior to any coding to ensure alignment. Behavior-driven development, BDD, advances with tests written in a user-friendly language. Exploratory testing encourages testers to explore the application for detecting hidden bugs. Lastly, session-based testing, a structured form of exploratory testing, assigns testers a specific goal. These various Agile testing methods, when used effectively, can significantly speed up the testing process and improve product quality.
I want to thank everybody for making it this far in the video. Remember, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like this video. Continues more content going forward. Now, let's get back into the topic.
We've talked about what Agile testing is and its types, but why is it important? Agile testing is proactive, catching bugs early to save time and resources. It's like resolving the problem before it escalates. It also improves the product's overall quality, ensuring every feature works as expected. Agile testing enables shorter release cycles, allowing quick iterations, so products or features can be updated more frequently. But it requires from traditional test plans to an Agile test strategy, focusing on test coverage, automation, and case management. Agile testing is not just a method, but a mindset. So, the importance of Agile testing lies in its ability to streamline processes, enhance collaboration, and ultimately contribute to team success. Before we wrap up, let's quickly recap what we've learned. Agile testing is a dynamic, collaborative approach to software testing, with a focus on testing features as they're developed. Remember, it's not a solo mission, but a team responsibility, with methods like test-driven development, acceptance test-driven development, and more. Its importance can't be overstated, as it allows for early detection of issues, leading to improved product quality and shorter release cycles. Remember, Agile testing isn't just a method, it's a mindset that can lead to greater team success.
So today we're going to talk about definition of done and testing strategy. Why, as a team lead, a Scrum Master, Program Manager, do you want to discuss this with your team? Well, it's scope. Scope of work that needs to be discussed and aligned on that can hurt your timelines and also your budget. So really understanding and aligning on this is important because it's essentially scope of work. And so the first thing I want to talk about is definition of done, and then we'll talk about testing strategy within this. So definition of done is all of the product backlog items, all the user stories, they must accomplish all of these checklist items. That's essentially what that is. So all of it's encompassing. And so it could be quality things. It could be just cleaning up different branches or peer reviews, pull requests. So it really depends on your team and what all the stories need to accomplish before you can say they're done or they're complete. It's alignment from the team, and it's important because some of these can actually cascade and add more scope, and that's where there's misalignment and then timelines are slipping and people are misaligned, so it's important. So let's talk about that, and we'll go into testing strategy within this conversation. So here are some items that I have as a kind of a baseline for all teams that I've seen that worked well. So we'll go through these. First one is remove old branches. So this often, this can be something that people assume happens, but doesn't always happen. And it becomes a little more difficult cleaning it up later down the road when it's all these old branches and people are trying to merge things into main or to feature branch. And so making sure that people are cleaning up after them is important. And I always include this within my team's definition of done. Second one is terminate unused IT resources. So this is another one that can be costly, especially depending on what resources are up, is that terminating things that you're not using is a best practice. So making sure you're actually terminating those resources that you are not using anymore from that user story after you're done. That's considered done. Testing completed. So we'll go into this in a little bit. This is a fantastic conversation within the team. So that can add a lot of scope, and so it's important if you want to keep your timelines in alignment within the team. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's go through the rest of these. So pull requests and peer reviewed. So their pull request is peer reviewed. That might be a definition of done. Pull request merged to main. So maybe it's approved, there's some feedback, and that's incorporated and merged to main. That's when that story can be moved to done, or in that column of complete or done within Jira. The user story is actually moved to done. This is something too that not always is done, and so it can hurt some of the metrics that come out of the box if you're not actually moving the stories over into done, especially when the sprint closes. It can hurt that when those metrics are captured. Common or location of work reference inside ticket. This is like when you're done, where is this work located at? Sometimes it's tough to remember 3 months down the road where that was referenced at. You can find the user story, but you can't find actually the work or the code. So making sure that that you're commenting on the ticket of what was the result of that location in Confluence, or any other things that would be beneficial as you're going back and looking at the user story of where that work was located. README or Confluence documentation completed. So documentation is important. At what level depends on the actual type of work. Sometimes a README is good enough within the code. Sometimes you need external stakeholders. I'm not in the code, so maybe Confluence documentation is required. So it's assuming that there is some work documented on what you built as you're completing that. So that's an option as well. This is demo to the stakeholders. So this might be something that is demonstrated. So feedback can be incorporated to maybe a later sprint. So that's kind of something that I like to do as well, to demonstrate it to somebody that is looking for that feature or that fix, so they can provide feedback. And then another one, approved by product owner. So maybe there's somebody in that team or outside the team that approves that work, that yes, this works for the user expectations, and so maybe there's an approval there. So you don't have to use all of these. You can even just use one or two of these, or maybe use none of these. And it's really what works best for your team to align on when you say it's done, what does it actually mean? So this gets alignment on all these items, because this can mean definition of done can mean different things to different people. And so getting it documented just like this is actually important as well. Document on Confluence, we can go through and saying all these must be done in order to be considered be done. So I promised you that I'll go on the testing strategy, because that's actually probably a bigger scope of work. Different than the definition of done, because sometimes these are actually user stories or actually work in the backlog. But something I think is important to defining on what actually done means, right? Because hey, I completed a feature, I completed building infrastructure or a component in the UI. What testing is expected in each one of those levels to be considered it done, right? And that can mean different things for different people. And here's like a checklist that I thought that was useful from one of the frameworks in Discipline Agile that I thought was really helpful and really making a checklist of things you should talk with the team and decide on as you are deciding your testing strategy. You're developing a testing strategy. And this actually is on its own. There should be people on the team that are experts in this, because this is a huge topic, and what levels of it for different types of development, whether it's APIs, UI, and so really identifying this, or even infrastructure, because identifying this really can add a lot of scope and really can hurt your team and committing their commitments to the stakeholders. So the idea for this is really to go through something like this, a checklist. What kind of testing strategy are you using here, right? Who's actually the staffing for that, right? Who's actually going to do that? What's the team strategy, right? Are we doing it embedded testers, or are we doing, an independent team of testers? What kind of plan do we want to document? Is it detailed or lightweight? What kind of approaches are we taking? Black box, clear box, test intensity. Maybe it's business critical, maybe it's product critical, maybe it's life critical. What if this is something that has to do with, infrastructure, maybe for a gas company, and if something goes wrong, it can really actually cause damage. So just keep that in mind. What type of product you're building, that level of detail and rigor might be more intense. What kind of development strategy you're using? Test-driven development, test after development, right? There's different test lists. You don't have to do any tests, right? That's an option as well. So keep in mind, these can add different layers of work. Quality requirements, so maybe it's performance, scalability, security, usability. And these might actually be in definition of done. That's why I actually incorporate in the same conversation, because sometimes these overlap a little bit, and really alignment on this and how this is done is up to the team, but having the discussion is not optional. It should be mandatory. How are you testing the environment? Is it physical? Is it virtual based? Is it cloud based? Where are you testing that at? Do we have the test environment set up, right? Maybe that's some of the work we have to plan to develop ourselves, to set up those environments to actually test our work. It might not be set up. What types of environments are you testing on? Are they close to it? Production? Are they pretty far from production or production equivalent? Right? There's different levels of that, so you can understand, well, how much work is left once you actually deploy it to production that needs to happen in order for it to actually get to the users and create value back to the business. There's also testing types, right? Functional testing, story testing, unit testing, UAT, right? What types of testing are you doing? Test suite, you're using regression test suites, single, manual testing. You have a pipeline for that. Is it automatic? Test data source, so where is this data at? Is it mass data? Is it generated data? Is it original production data? Is it a virtualization of that? So that's really important to making sure what type of work your team might have to do, or some other team might have to do. Test automation strategy. So do you have a continuous integration and deployment pipeline? Do you have manual testing? Do you have scripts to help out with that? That's good to know as well. Maybe you might want to develop this to speed up your team's testing strategy. So that's something to talk about. Test automation coverage, right? What code coverage do you have? Is there a certain percentage, 80%, 50%, 90%, right? Making sure you're aligned on the test coverage. Defect reporting, how this will work, how this will get fed back to the team. This is something that you'll find a bug, you get feedback from the users, and you add it to the backlog. Is that responsibilities of the team, or is it product owner? Is it the user doing that? How is that being captured, then how is that being prioritized with the current work, right? In a capacity planning of 20% bugs, 80% new features, right? That's something that's a discussion needs to happen. And also quality of the governance strategy. So what are the guidelines? Are informal reviews, formal reviews? Is there documentation, schema analysis, right? Those are some things as well, like what's required for the team. This is why I think it's so important, because you can see some of these are simple, or there's no change, meaning maybe you don't do any testing, right? There's a test strategy that has no testing, and you're maybe testing it on the fly. But there's also some that has a lot. And so that's kind of where you have to really discuss this in advance, making sure you're aligned along with the definition done, because it overlaps a little bit on that, just so you can align on what your team needs to do to be successful and to align on stakeholders on what you're committing to and what you're actually delivering to. So that's my video on definition of done and testing strategy. Hope all of you liked it. If you have any comments, I'd like to hear what your team uses. Give me a testing strategy, a definition of done that works for your team that's not, I didn't discuss here, and that others might find useful. I'd like to hear it in the comments below. Please like this video. If you want more, subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next video.